Ethan Klein admitted that his wife is a terrorist, rather than concede the point, which is that if he thinks that Hila is not a terrorist, then obviously Rashid, the Yemeni kid, is also not a terrorist, given that he was never a part of any armed group, he never participated in anything that can even remotely be construed as a terrorist attack, etc. That was the point that Hasan was trying to make. So it doesn't make any sense to say that that guy is a terrorist, but that Hila Klein, who factually volunteered, who applied for a transfer from an office job in Tel Aviv in the IDF to the illegally occupied West Bank, and then participated in an illegal raid in which she did a terrorist kidnapping with the IDF, which is, according to Ethan, a terrorist group. So the point there was that Rashid is not a terrorist if Hila isn't, by Ethan's logic. And rather than concede that point, Ethan Klein just outright fucking said live on air that his wife is a terrorist.
Arrested, like stabbed people? Like you don't know what you're talking about.
Talk about how fucked
okay,
up
fine, my
that
wife's
was.
a terrorist, bro. What the fuck? It's so boring.
Stop.
This guy is such a fragile little egotistical bitch that before conceding a single point, an introspective person with a brain would have said, you know, I never thought about it like that. You're right. He's probably not a terrorist or something like that. Instead, he's just like, yeah, my wife's a terrorist. This guy was put in the fucking doghouse when he got home. Like during this stream, he said it was a genocide, and he said that his wife's a terrorist, and he said the IDF are terrorists. Holy shit, if Hila saw that, it's over. The divorce is 100% fucking coming. Jesus. So I want to, let's look at this. So Ethan, who again, I said in the intro to this series, he pretended that he thinks it's genocide and that the IDF are terrorists. And then he went on to say that everyone who fights against the IDF and the genocide are wrong for doing so. And this is the part specifically about the terrorist thing.
Against and resisting against Israel's genocide, which they stopped, by the way. They literally stopped when Israel actually followed through on a ceasefire. If they were just, erroneously and randomly fucking trying to claim ships because they're pirates, they want to live the pirate life, then obviously they wouldn't have stopped doing that, don't you think? And they only started their blockade after Israel started starving Gaza again, and then also turned around.
What does that have to do with innocent sailors?
Innocent sailors, he says. Innocent sailors. I love that fucking talking point. So if there's a genocide going on, and these shipping companies force their crews to try to run an openly declared blockade, how is that possibly to be blamed on the people who are carrying out the blockade? How? How exactly? How is it not the fault of the shipping companies for forcing that upon their workers? Like, how exactly, what are they supposed to do? Like, oh, wait, this ship is going to Israel. By the way, the Galaxy Leader factually was going to Israel. That's something that these people are leaving out. But aside from that, what are they supposed to do? Like, oh, wait, these ships have civilian crews, as every single fucking transport ship does. I guess we're just going to have to let this one through. We're going to have to let it go and put its goods, undock its goods in the genocidal Israeli state. Whoops, sorry. It's just so fucking unreasonable. It's such a dumb bullshit. They're just looking for anything to delegitimize any resistance to genocide. And that's just how you can tell. Ethan is pro-genocide. He's not actually anti-genocide as he claims. He doesn't acknowledge the genocide, because anyone who thinks that a genocide is happening would obviously fucking understand that when you're trying to do something about that, some people are going to get caught up in it who shouldn't be, and that's just a fucking fact of life. You think that when, like, resistance fighters in World War II, like, attacked a railway line and derailed a train or something, that didn't, that didn't affect civilian transport as well? Obviously, it fucking would have. There's always something that you can find. There are military bases that have contracted janitors, random civilian janitors on them. I guess we can't do a missile strike on the military base because that civilian might get killed. No, you don't think that. The reason why he's saying this stuff is because he is pro-genocide, doesn't think it's a genocide. Because if he thought it was a genocide, he would support people who are trying to do something about it, no matter how flawed they are.
Ethan, I don't think you want to go down this route.
I'm ready. What do you mean?
People is terrorism. Is Israel terrorist? Is the IDF terrorist?
I mean, you could characterize it that way.
Is the IDF terrorist?
Oh my God, Hila fucking grilled him after this one.
An army.
He's gonna have to get 4 more fucking Hila face tattoos to make up for this night.
So it's a different thing. It's
it's an army, so it's a different thing. The Houthis are an army. ISIS was an army. Hezbollah is an army. What the fuck does that mean?
Different thing. You think the Ansar Allah movement doesn't have a standing army? They have an army.
The Houthis did like a hostile takeover of like a portion of.
It wasn't a hostile takeover. It was a fucking popular coup.
Of Yemen. They're at odds with the government. It's different.
The government, it's not the government except according to like the fucking Saudis in the USA.
Wait,
They also own slaves, by the way.
We're going to talk about.
They own slaves. He's doing the slave thing still. That was debunked like years ago. We just cited a made-up Saudi propaganda article, and he's still repeating it. This is why he doesn't fucking talk to me. Because I would just call this shit out and fucking laugh at him.
We're going to talk about the Ansarullah movement's history.
I'll say, yeah, Israel, the IDF is terrorist. Yes.
Hold on.
Okay, the IDF is terrorist.
The IDF's terrorism.
Hold on.
Okay, great. Okay. Simple thing then. Hila Klein was a member of a terrorist organization. It's that simple. Hila Klein was a member of a terrorist organization. Hila Klein went on raids of a terrorist organization. The IDF is terrorist. Your wife's a terrorist then. How can the IDF be terrorist, yet Hila Klein, who is a member of the terrorist organization, is not a terrorist? Doesn't make much sense, does it? So, like, he said, oh, okay, man, my wife is a terrorist, kind of dismissively, but by his own fucking admission there, he admits that she's a terrorist. You know, he tries to get her out of it by making a bunch of, like, caveats for her.
As long as they recognize that was wrong. What I take issue with is consistently defending Israel. You have also participated in the defense of Israel. It makes no sense. You're inconsistent. You say it's a genocide, but people can't resist militarily. You say it's a genocide, but all of the people who are outspoken are vile anti-Semites.
Hila was
Who
doing
is supposed to be able to resist against this genocide? Do you actually think it's a genocide?
Hila was doing mandatory military service. What should she have done?
Let's refute this by watching the video. Here are facts. Straight from the horse's mouth. Literally. First fact, Hila Klein had a desk job in Tel Aviv that she hated.
At first, I was given a role that was like in an office somewhat close to my house in Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like...
Okay, Hila Klein found that role boring, so she asked for a transfer.
Interesting.
And it was super boring, and I really hated it. Because it was just like... I had to take a bus super early, go there, spend the whole day, go back home. I hated it. So I tried to change my role.
Okay. Firstly, the argument that it's mandatory is the crock shit in the first place. There are tons of exemptions. It's notoriously easy to get out of IDF service, especially as a woman. This is something that she acknowledges in a second. But the part where it stopped being mandatory was when she had a role fairly removed from combat, though still obviously playing a role in the terrorist organization, which is a terrorist organization as Ethan Klein himself acknowledged, so now he can't contest it anymore. But she asked for a closer role. She wanted something more exciting. She asked for a transfer. That wasn't mandatory, was it? No one forced her to do that in any way, shape, or form.
And it was something like you can apply for it, and it's a form that you fill out, and then they're going to give you something else, completely random.
Different
no
position, different post, different location.
And this is her saying outright, if she did not like the new role that she got, she would have found a way to get out. She knew that she had ways to get out, but she did not exercise this option because she liked her new role.
So I decided to do that, and if I don't like the second one, then I'll just find a way to get out of the army.
It was that bad?
Yeah, I just didn't, I hated everything about it, didn't want to do it. So I filled out that form, and I tried it, and then I somehow ended up in a better place that I liked.
So, clearly not mandatory. Her asking for a transfer from being relatively, a couple of places removed from the mass baby murder. That was not mandatory in any way, shape, or form. She also acknowledges that it wasn't mandatory in the first place because she had ways to get out of it that she would have exercised if she thought she was bored enough to do so. And then she goes on to say that she actually liked the new place where she got transferred and decided to stay. She was a part of a notorious genocidal Israeli brigade in the illegally occupied West Bank. She went on an illegal raid in the illegally occupied West Bank. She kidnapped someone on this raid in the illegally occupied West Bank as a member of what Ethan Klein says is a terrorist organization. Note that Ethan Klein has also in the past said that Israeli West Bank settlers are fair game, legitimate targets. Let me play that for you.
I agree. On the West Bank, these people are, when you talk about colonial settlers and stuff, that's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now. And these people are more or less valid military targets, in my opinion.
Okay, so according to Ethan Klein, Hila Klein was a valid military target. Interesting. Now I want to bring up something else here from this debate, which is incredibly contradictory with everything else that Ethan Klein always says. Let's check out what Ethan Klein says about Hila Klein's terrorist attack and kidnapping. And then we will juxtapose that with what he said about West Bank settlers. What I'm saying here basically is Ethan Klein's real position is extremely far-right Zionist, but he adapts it based on the present situation and just lies about what he actually believes. He does this constantly. He lied about thinking that West Bank settlers are valid targets, just like he lied about thinking that the IDF are terrorists and that there's a genocide going on, because everything else that he says contradicts that.
Night raid, as a matter of fact. And I didn't know any of this until recently, for the record, until a couple months ago.
Yeah,
She was
you're
out
going to
there
do the
doing
Raider of
night
Ramallah
raid.
snark
Do you
bullshit?
think
Go
She
on.
literally raided Ramallah. She did.
Yeah, your community doesn't harass anyone. She was 18 years
Harassed for what? For fucking kidnapping people in a terrorist attack?
old. She went on a ride along to Ramallah for some kind of fucking mission. She stayed in the car, and then they went back, and that's all.
She begged them to go. And by the way, even without the actual raid, her job was to fucking organize raids like that. She was an illegal occupier in the West Bank. You think terrorist organizations don't have people who organize this shit, don't have secretaries? They do. Do you think a secretary, like in the Hamas military wing, would not be a terrorist? You do think they would be a terrorist. So I just fucking got you there, didn't I? Obviously, even without this raid, she still would have been a fucking terrorist. So it ultimately doesn't matter that much. But still, she did go on the raid. He also lied. She did say she got out.
Yeah,
Huh. Did you have a gun on you?
I didn't.
You were not supposed to leave.
No, yeah, not really. But even if I walked with them to one house.
Okay.
I did get out of the car once.
Fucking liar. Caught fucking lying. She got out. She said it herself. She got out as they arrested what Ethan Klein called an it.
All that happened.
She
She's
described
18 years
the
old, bro. She's a
process of taking-
secretary.
She's 18 years old. How old is the fucking kid from Yemen you've slandered for fucking a year now? 18.
Someone hostage, you called him it, by the way. That person was a Palestinian living in his own, living in his own fucking home. And your wife went on a raid to Ramallah, which...
So now he moves on to trying to justify it. This Palestinian was a criminal.
You have called a terror city.
Yeah,
So
that was an old clip. I don't think Ramallah is a terrorist
valid
city.
military target in that process? Because you've said that settlers are valid military targets. Do you think your wife is a valid military target? Do you think your wife is a terrorist?
She's not a
Ethan?
West Bank settler. She's not a West Bank settler.
You know what's worse than being a West Bank settler? Being a fucking armed soldier, being a secretary for a fucking terrorist group in the West Bank carrying out fucking terror raids every night. That's
But
significantly worse than just being a settler.
The West Bank.
Bad
Where's
Empanada
Ramallah,
thinks she is.
Ethan?
Bad
Hell yeah.
Empanada thinks she's
Hell yeah.
valid. Your friends over at Second Thought think that she's a valid target.
You think she
Do
is?
you?
You said she's a valid target. You said that West Bank settlers are valid targets. I can't believe it. This guy just changes what he believes on the fly. Oh my God, it's fucking crazy. He just forgets what he said 5 months ago.
That's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now. And these people are, more or less valid military targets, in my opinion.
Let's keep watching.
Valid military target. That's
Do you
my
think
point,
she's a
because
valid
there's
military target?
inconsistencies here.
Do you think she's a valid military target?
I do not, as a matter of fact. I
Wow,
don't.
great.
Boo, Hassan.
Okay?
All right, can we please move on to this the Nakba
listen
thing?
to me. Listen to
Can
me.
we please move on?
Bro, you're making this
Listen to me.
unwatchable.
You're making this unwatchable. How dare you fucking talk about facts and point out inconsistencies with my logic that prove that I'm a fucking terrorism and genocide supporter?
Listen to me. Okay?
We got to move on.
How does this make sense in your mind? You say Israel is doing genocide. She has participated in the kidnapping of a Palestinian in the West Bank. You say
You don't know
hate
who
the
was
West
kidnapped
Bank.
and for
You
what
say
reason.
you
We
hate
don't-
the settlers.
So was it kidnapping then?
Well, we don't know who is.
Is there a valid reason to kidnap? Is there a valid reason, Ethan? Let's see what else he says here, and then I'm going to refute it completely.
The
First of all,
settlers, Ethan. Your wife did.
Kidnapped. They arrested somebody. We don't know what
They
happened.
arrested somebody? No, they fucking didn't. Do you know what it is when an illegal occupying force, internationally recognized an illegal occupying force, takes someone out of their fucking home who lives there? That's called a kidnapping. They have no right to enforce the law in the fucking West Bank. Nothing. None. They have no right to arrest any Palestinian for any reason, even if they are a criminal.
I don't know what they did.
So
what if he fucking stabbed civilians? Doesn't that happen?
What if he stabs civilians, Ethan? Okay, so he's in the West Bank, right? As you yourself have said, quite eloquently, if I do say so myself. There were no civilians in the West Bank, according to you, Ethan. So if he went and stabbed them, they were valid military targets in your opinion. Ergo, he didn't commit any crime, even if he did do that, which, to be clear, you provided no proof of, and you're making this fucking up.
I totally agree. On the West Bank, like, these people are, when you talk about like colonial settlers and stuff, like that's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now. And these people are, like, I mean, more or less valid military targets, in my opinion.
You notice how quickly he retreats from this when it's convenient to him, his narrative. He has to make something up to defend his terrorist wife, and he makes up this idea that this Palestinian, who we know fucking nothing about and he knows nothing about, was a criminal in order to justify it. Except we have clips of him from 5 months ago saying that a Palestinian in the West Bank killing an Israeli is not a criminal because they're a valid military target. He gets caught in this shit so fucking often.
People are arrested in the West Bank, Ethan.
Do Palestinian terrorists never stab and blow up civilians?
They're placed under military detention.
Okay, do IDF terrorists never kill babies? Okay, well, Hila was in the IDF, and given that they do kill babies, Hila is a baby killer then. Just using your logic here.
They are not actually placed. They do not go through a civil court process.
Do Palestinian terrorists ever commit violence on civilians that would warrant them being arrested?
They are not in the West Bank.
You don't know anything about this person or this raid.
He's trying to justify a terrorist attack here, by the way.
In
This guy goes from, the IDF is a terrorist organization. Anyway, this terrorist raid of this group that I just called a terrorist organization a minute ago was justified. Like, the only way that his logic here makes sense of how fluid he is in changing between it's a genocide and yeah, they're terrorists to defending the genocide and defending the terrorists is that Ethan Klein supports genocide and terrorism. There's no other way to look at this. He says it's a genocide in Gaza. He says the IDF is a terrorist group. And the very next fucking second, he's defending those things.
Allah, in Palestinian territory, your wife was an illegal occupier of a terrorist organization, also known as the Israeli Occupying Force, Ethan. Now, I know people that have also served in the Israeli Occupying Force, as a matter of fact. I've relied on breaking the silence.
By the way, her name is Hila. I don't know if you keep doing your wife. Why do you do that?
Wow, what a great fucking talking point, dude. You sure refuted him here. He has nothing to say here. And for him, just letting Hasan say this stuff, like he's going to have to get 3 or 4 more Hila face tattoos to deal with this. Oh my God. And then he goes on to just say, oh yeah, my wife's a terrorist.
What you're even referring to. Okay.
What?
I don't even know what the fuck you're referring to. You're just calling my wife a terrorist. Like, give me a break, dude. She did mandatory.
Why is it wrong to call your wife a terrorist when by your own fucking definition, she's a terrorist? This fucking moron can't argue anything. He dug himself into this hole by accusing fucking Twitch streamers of being terrorists. Twitch streamers are terrorists, yet the person who went on a terrorist raid isn't. The person who was a member of what he himself claimed is a terrorist organization during this very stream is not a terrorist, and it's wrong to call her that. Ethan Klein said that his wife is a terrorist. It is that simple. She's a terrorist. Ethan said so. Cite it until the end of time. Hila Klein is a terrorist. Quote from Ethan Klein. It's that simple.